At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by pace, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar. Zero patience for slow walkers. Those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night. Have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
I wanted to create Andy going through a journey of a sexual awakening from, a high school senior to a young man, along with his friends, encountering all these oddballs and great people and mentors throughout the span of one summer to take him to another place and to hopefully make him feel secure as an adult. That you'll have to read to find out whether that happens or not. But that was based on Siddhartha. But to answer your question more fully, and I love this question actually, I get so much inspiration from artists who push it pretty far.
Welcome to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, an arts and culture podcast. I'm Dr. Andrew Rimby, the host and founder. Wherever you are listening, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, please do me a favor, make sure you're following the show and make sure that you rate and review us. It really means a lot, and it continues to allow me to get really exciting guests for the podcast and to continue delivering the podcast for free. Remember, though, we do have a Patreon, so if you don't want to listen to ads and you want to watch the video episodes of the podcast, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Do you know that there is a book club? It's free and virtual. So easy to just join the book club in your pajamas on a Sunday afternoon. Our next book club is June 22nd at 5 p.m. We are reading Sophie Gilbert's Girl on Girl, How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves. She writes for The Atlantic. She is such an amazing pop culture expert. So if you've always wondered, wait, why did the paparazzi harass Britney Spears like that? Or did the Spice Girls really have a love-hate relationship with each other? You're going to want to read this book. So to join the book club, email ivorytowerboilerroom@gmail.com and I will give you the Zoom link, June 22nd, 5 p.m. Without further ado, and a brief message of thanks. Thank you to Mary DiPipi, the chief contributor, and Christian Garcia, who edits this podcast, and my fiance and parents, who continue delivering really creative ideas my way. And without further ado, here's today's episode. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Andrew Rimby. Welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I am so excited to usher in Pride Month with a not only literature hit, in my opinion, but also an author who I can't wait to pick his brain because there's so many reminiscences of my conversation that I just had with Brian Alessandro about the film Queer, and I feel like that's a nice Luca Guadagnino carryover with Robert Raasch's new novel. So I want to introduce Robert. This is his debut novel, but he was raised in northern New Jersey. I don't know why I said but. That has nothing to do with the novel. You can be a novelist from New Jersey.
Yeah.
There's a lot of New Jersey writers. He is a writer, architect, designer, visual artist, an active participant in 24 Pearl Street and the Fine Arts Works Center in P-Town, Massachusetts. He divides his time between Southwest Florida. It says New York and Copenhagen. I know he's zooming from Chicago, though, so we can add the Windy City to his list. So he's working on his second novel, which definitely I'll have to end and ask you about that. But Robert, welcome to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm so happy to be here.
So your debut novel, The Summer Between, which has just a stunning cover, it's giving me very play girl-esque type motif here.
Yeah.
Very muscle magazine. It has a lot of Call Me by Your Name feels or Moonlight, in my opinion. So
Yep.
I guess I want to start there is
Yeah.
you've had such a career as an architect, a visual designer. How do you enter into a writing career?
It's really interesting. The trajectory of my overall career has been all over the place, as you just kind of said, but all within a creative realm. And writing, I've always been a bit of a writer and a creative writer in grad school. I took creative writing classes, I've been in workshops and all of that because it's something that I really have enjoyed, but I haven't really given it the attention that I have now. And I did not make a decision, oh, I'm going to be a writer now. I just started writing short stories. And this is really interesting, I think, for a lot of folks as they delve into sort of a new aspect of their creativity. I started writing short stories that were more personal, but then started expanding them and I put them together and I showed them to a writer friend, and he gave me the encouragement to continue, and said that he thought that there was a novel within this, and that was like a rocket boost to me, like to Mars, where I just felt so good about that I had this somebody with influence who's Christopher Bram, a really wonderful writer of so many great novels,
Hmm.
Gods and Monsters and all of that. And it gave me a boost. And then I really started taking it somewhat more seriously, but still not really knowing where anything was going. I thought, oh, I'll just like play with this, but I dug really deep into it, and then I wanted to prove that I could really write something. And then it just kept going from there. So I think like the lesson is we have no idea the levels of untapped creativity we have within us until we start exploring and taking that. So then now I'm sort of like in the, oh, I'm an author now because I'm published and I'm writing another book, and I absolutely love the process.
Mm.
So it's really just kind of happened with, a little direction, and now I'm just, taking it off and flying as well as I can with it.
Well, and since you're such a creative person, like, do you find any through line between being your design career and then a writing career? Is there any similarities?
Yeah, there are several similarities. I think discipline is a big part of it. And I think I learned early to work well with deadlines and really see a project through, which always has excited me, like just to see where can I take this? How far can I push
Hmm.
this? What will it be? So it's sort of like I look at like the book as a project in a similar way that I may have looked like a building in Dubai as a project, or, a drugstore in Tokyo or something like that. It's just like they're all individual projects that I try to push as far as I can. And I think that that's like the most common thread with it. And also, I think architecture allows me to walk through spaces. I think I've developed a good 3D sense so that when I write, I'm walking through the space in my head and I can describe things. A couple of people have pointed out, a couple of readers, that they love the way that they feel like they're in the scene, or they feel like they're,
Mm.
walking through the scene or the chapter. And I think architecture and the 3D sensibility has added that to my writing, if
Yeah,
that
so
makes sense.
no, it does. The visceral sense of space and, what in philosophy they call phenomenology, which
Yeah.
is just for everyone out there, it's a fancy term, as all philosophy terms are, for just like your orientation in a space, like where you are, say, in a Broadway theater, and the vantage point of you being in the balcony versus you being in the orchestra, and like the experience that provides you. And I think that
Yeah.
just having finished teaching Song of Achilles, I have a student who is studying architecture. And it was so interesting for her
Ah,
final project. You would have loved it, Robert. She took
yeah.
all the settings and did a collage of like the Agora market in ancient Greece, the bathhouse, the temple, and like showed how those settings are pivotal to the narrative arc of Madeline Miller's novel. And I'm kind of curious, when you approached The Summer Between, or even if you before as a reader, like were you always looking into novels from the setting? Like was setting really important to you?
Yeah, I think I tend to walk through the space, whether I'm reading or experiencing it live. Like if I go to a new museum, it's about the art, but it's also about the height of the ceilings and where the light's coming in and how everything is positioned. And I feel that when I read, it's almost like a 3D experience or an AI experience. I walk through it. Like I like to get lost in it and then feel, the not only the space, but like the sounds and the light and all of the things that hit all of the senses. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were knowing that, okay, I'm going to go on this writing journey,
Yeah.
like who do you attribute? It might not even be authors, but in media in general, like who are your inspiring figures?
Well, that's twofold. I think that the book, or I know that the book was loosely based on my favorite novel as a teenager, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, which is a
Hmm.
spiritual journey of one young man meeting and encountering a whole bunch of people, some animals and things that help develop and enforce his spirituality. So, in that sense, I wanted to create Andy going through a journey of a sexual awakening from, a high school senior to a young man, along with his friends, encountering all these oddballs and great people and mentors throughout the span of one summer to take him to another place and to hopefully make him feel secure as an adult. That you'll have to read to find out whether that
Yes, yes,
happens or
yes.
not. But that was based on Siddhartha. But to answer your question more fully, and I love this question actually, I get so much inspiration from artists who push it pretty far. For instance, like music, like I've been listening to both FK Twigs and Tom York of Radiohead have two new albums, and I just keep
Hmm.
playing them over and over and over again because I feel like they're taking the form and making something new. Um, what was the artist's name? Henry Taylor did an incredible show at the Whitney last year, and I felt
Wow.
like that really pushed portrait painting, and it took on a new caliber for me. And things like that, when I see it, I want to push myself further. Like A Little Life for me and for many others pushed literature and creating characters to maybe a degree I hadn't experienced before.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
I was recently watching Return to Oz and Nosferatu with my fiance, and I thought, wait, I just had on Broadview Press authors who wrote a vampire literature anthology and the iconic edition of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. So I said to my fiance, you know what? I need to tell everyone who's listening to ITBR that broadviewpress.com has everything from classic novels to discussions about vampire literature, vampires in film and TV, the philosophy of sports, Native American culture, horror. There is so much on Broadview Press's website. I urge you all right now, search broadviewpress.com. You will see that not only do they have books for college instructors, which if you do teach college, you better add them to your list because it's amazing, all the resources they have. But if you have just wandered around a bookstore or a library and thought, everyone always told me to read Moby Dick, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to fully understand it. Broadviewpress.com has you covered because they have amazing notes and sources to help you dissect that huge whale of a tale. See what I did there? I was just watching the Page Master, so there's a little Moby Dick reference. Head to broadviewpress.com, use the exclusive code they gave us, Ivory Tower, 20% off your entire order. Yes, your entire order. Enjoy your reading, and please reach out to me and let me know what you're reading from Broadview Press. I would love to share it on social media.
So it's about anything, any artists who push it that really make me want to be a better version of who I am and create something that's more interesting than mediocre. That's what I aim for. Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up, do you feel that the landscape of gay coming out narratives has changed drastically? Like, from say, Gore Vidal's The City and the Pillar, or even if we want to take like a film example, Angels in America or Philadelphia. And then we had Brokeback Mountain, but now like there's so much streaming. I just saw a new show called Overcompensating on Prime, which I
I'd like to watch.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's hilarious. But
good.
It kind of like blends Love Victor / Love Simon with like a college fraternity. So it's kind of like Legally Blonde if Legally Blonde was about a closeted Idaho comedian gay guy.
Oh my God. I have to watch this. It sounds so good. I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, no, it's so good.
I can't wait.
But, what is it like now in this changing landscape? Like, how did you try to process, okay, what's my coming out narrative going to center on?
Yeah, and what's really interesting is what came out are so many similarities and also the differences. Because I think the novel set in 1978 reads like a contemporary novel in many ways, but but they didn't have social media, of course. There weren't cell phones, and that was really fun. Like researching, going back and seeing, reimagining what life would be for a young gay person without any of the perks and some might say unfortunate elements of today. I think it was much more innocent. It was also obviously much more closeted. It was, which I think made it terrifying in many ways because there weren't role models, like role models were people like Paul Lynde on Hollywood Squares or Charles Nelson Riley. I mean, there weren't. So being gay was portrayed in the arts as one type until like Boys of the Band, which I think that may have been in the 60s. I'm not sure, but I think it's changed quite a bit now, and I don't know what it's like for young teenagers who are both bombarded with social media and access to almost any information and anything. I think it's in some ways healthier and better because that there are other people out there and you can seek role models. I also think it can be terrifying with bullying and other things. So these were things that weren't experienced in the same way at all. There was, bullying and that sort of thing, but it was maybe somebody would push you in the hallway and call you a faggot or something, or it didn't, the families I think didn't really accept it. But I think in the late 70s, things were starting to open up. And there was the village people were coming out, and there was sort of a renaissance. Gay liberation started in the 60s. So I think things did change, but they're much more advanced now, just like everything is.
Well, and I've had such interesting, like, whether they be, I've had gay liberation front members on the podcast. I've
Oh,
had
wow.
those who've done, like, did their academic studies in the 70s and talked about the porn cinemas of, like, gay cinemas in Times Square. And I think that, while it seems like such a paradise, Studio 54, like, again, it's very Manhattan focused, and it's also
Correct.
like what's going on outside of Manhattan. Like, if you're in the
Yeah,
in scene, like, if you know Halston, or Donna Summer's music, like, there is a kind of code going on in the disco world. But
for sure.
yeah, but it's not like that outside of that bubble.
No,
So
like in
yeah.
Idaho or Tennessee or something like that. I imagine it would be terrifying, and especially with religion being imposed on it. I think things were just so much stricter back then. So yeah, this is a portrait of someone who has the opportunity of living close to a metropolitan area and then diving into that, which I think is very different than so many other accounts that have been written, in more rural areas and different decades, different time, and all of that. But there
Well,
was sort of a fluidity happening. And that's what I think I uncovered without realizing it until I finished. Um, their sexuality was, people were experimenting. I knew girls that were like, sleeping with other girls and then deciding they didn't like it or they did like it. And there was a growing acceptance, I think, for the first time, except maybe since the 30s, also in metropolitan areas, the 1930s, that was, I think, kind of percolating as well.
and I think it's so interesting. Like, 1978 just gives me such a rainbow color scheme. I think of just the amazing disco music. I mean, you brought up the Village People,
Yeah,
and I think that there is such a renaissance of that queer culture starting to grow, like you're saying.
yeah,
So, what was it like, though, thinking about, okay, I'm gonna have my main character Andy. He's going to live in the Jersey suburbs with access to the city, but, like, suburbia is such an interesting liminal space. Like, it's a place
yeah,
where you could either stay in the bubble or you can explore the metropolitan area, and I think it tends to get forgotten in a lot of these coming out narratives. Like, I think it's either the rural space or the city, but we don't
yeah,
really always
yeah.
see the in between
The in
spaces.
between. That's really interesting. I love that you picked up on that. Yeah, and I think what I really tried to do is achieve Andy's struggle and thirst for truth and acceptance. Of course, he's very vulnerable, and there are so many examples of that throughout the book, but he didn't want to lie. He wanted to be true to himself. He wanted to eventually be true to his family. And he had this urge to push through and define himself first, like make sure that his assumptions about his sexuality were correct. And through the course of this summer, experiment and try to find his groove, try to find his tribe and his people, because he did have access, being in Manhattan, to so many more than somebody that was in a rural area. But he could have stayed a closeted kid, but it's like what I was talking about earlier about kind of pushing your craft and pushing your creativity. He pushed it, and I think that's something that I share with the character. Some people have asked, is the character me? And he's not exactly me. I would say the novel is about 25% based on truth and 75% based on fiction, um, which I feel like is a really healthy ratio because it was really fun. Like the most fun was pushing and finding those scenarios that, were not part of my more boring life. at the time. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think so many readers, they always want to know, like, oh, this is autobiographical, or it's like question
Yeah, no.
of, this is fictional, just like poetry. A lot of times a poet gets confused for the speaker of their poem. And
Hmm.
that's just like a debate I always, or a discussion I always have with my students. I'm like, no, it's not the same thing. Like, let's try to parse this
It is,
out. But
yeah, but
it's based on some, like you said, you had to do either research for the time period or like go into your memory
yeah,
for the emotional appeal. Like, okay, what was it like when I experienced this? So like, what was your coming out journey like?
it was definitely calmer than Andy's. Um, but I did have a I had that same drive to be honest and
Mm,
truthful and feel accepted. So I think my own was a quieter exploration. Um, there was some fear within it. And like Andy, I kind of played the game for a while, but I also wasn't sure. So that's an area. And I think earlier in the book is where I borrow aspects of my own life and my own surroundings. And then I think about a third of the way through, it kind of pushes through to this completely other, you know, set of scenarios and situations that the characters go through. But yeah, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was horrible for me because I was basically a Catholic light kid who followed by the rules and didn't take many chances. So I was an observer more than I was a doer.
mm.
And
Oh, that's
slowly, by going to school, I did undergrad at Parsons, and by getting into a pool of very creative people that were all over the place sexually. And I had friends that were um, transsexual. I had, uh, so many female straight friends and male straight friends. It was just like such a mix that's where I started to get comfortable and begin to find myself. I think was once I got into college.
so,
So,
your upbringing, this college experience, and
mhm.
just the way that the city entered your life. Like, what is it about Manhattan for you that just has sparked so much creativity? Because it seems like it's been a part of
Mm.
your life for a long time.
Hmm.
And,
It'll always
you've,
be home.
yes, and you
Yeah.
always travel to other areas. But what is it in this New York City that you just can't get even in other cities?
Constant stimulation, but not artificial stimulation, not from, a laptop or a desktop, by walking the streets, seeing graffiti, seeing how someone's dressed, seeing how someone might be distressed in their life and wearing it on their face. The ability to feel so alive. And that's something that I always sought out, like, just to be able to keep pushing life and having a really wonderful life. I think New York offers that opportunity. You have to be careful because it can exhaust you. So it's like now I find that I go in for a few days or a week and I'm like a sponge and I absorb everything. And then I need, peace and quiet.
Mm.
And then you can find that in New York, but I just find on a constant basis that it's too much for me now. But as a a younger man, I was ready for it. And I think it really is in many ways a city for people in their 20s and early 30s to really find out who they are and test their creativity. There's so many creative people in New York. It's just unbelievable. People that
Yes.
don't even think of themselves as creative are creative. And yeah, so sorry, that's a long answer,
No,
but
it's an
I
epis.
think
I
it's
mean,
stimulation. Yeah.
it is. And I just got to attend the Rainbow Book Fair and I talked to you
Oh,
about it
yeah.
offline, but
Yeah.
it's that just the presence of so many LGBT writers or artists, or going to Soho to the fashion boutiques to, you know,
Hmm.
the bookstores that thankfully some still exist and are
Yes.
independent, and McNally Jackson, or um, you know, going to, I think it's called, oh, it just eluded me. But oh, Housing Works, that's what it's called. This like really cool. I don't know if you ever went there, but it's
No,
like a
I don't know that.
used bookstore cafe, and the
Oh,
proceeds go to those with HIV and AIDS.
oh,
And
fantastic.
yeah, very cool. I hope it still
Yeah.
exists. But it's very close to the Leslie Lumen Art Museum.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so like these, I mean, where can you go? And like you said, you could literally take off your headphones. And there are times where I do take it off because there's so much going on that I just want to hear the sounds. And
Yeah.
it's, a really different space that doesn't really exist in a lot of other places. And
It's
I
unique.
think it's so unique. And I think that you don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know what the day is going to lead you into. Yeah, yes, there is a lot of stress or energy that can exhaust or suck you. Well, I was going to say suck you dry. That's an odd sexual metaphor there. But,
Ridiculous.
but, like now I love my commuting. Like I'm close enough, but I also have my suburban. It's like a choose your adventure every day with what I do. But,
Yeah, yeah.
there is such a beauty though of just being near that city and what it offers. So like, what do you think even about growing up in New Jersey? And that's something we share,
Hmm.
is how has New Jersey, like, how did you think about the way that you were going to even feature New Jersey in Andy's life? Like that suburban existence. Like what does New
Well,
Jersey mean to you?
yeah, well, it's interesting. As far as Andy goes, I wanted to create a very authentic, relatable character because when I was coming out, there were a bunch of books that was able to relate to by Edmund White and Best Little Boy in the World and The Front Runner. Um, and I couldn't find those books any longer. There were so much interesting, fascinating, necessary books and literature about, I don't know if it's extremes in literature or extreme characters, but a little bit more unusual. And I just wanted to place a suburban kid in a scenario because there are so many. And I feel like, okay, we've kind of like the pendulum has shifted to unique characters because of their location or their demographics. Like, but I wanted to create just a kid, that was somewhat relatable from, you know, to be honest, a white suburban background, not because there was a whole infusion of various characters throughout this of all different types and walks of life. But I just wanted to center it on that and see what that was like. And that's what my experience in New Jersey was growing up. And fortunately, I had a family that embraced New York. We would go all the time when I was a child, to the Met, to Radio City Music Hall, to see movies at that point. There was a restaurant that we would go to sort of in the village. It was called the Something Tavern, and I just blanked out on it. But my grandmother knew the cook, and we would go there and have big Sunday dinners, big Italian, Sunday family Sunday dinners and that sort of thing. Um, there were a lot of people in my suburban town, which is different than Maple Ridge that's in the book, but who were afraid to go to New York. How could you go into the city? Like, why would you do? You're going to get mugged. You're going to get hurt. You're going to do this. And we never accepted that. So
Well,
that
yeah.
was a different approach yeah.
No, it's
Sorry.
so interesting because um I think like what's going on now with New Jersey is fascinating because there's so much downtown culture. Like every town
Yeah.
that has a downtown, like, there's the Pride Flag cafes. There's like in South Jersey, there's a town called Pittman near my parents. And they have a pride parade now, and it's right near Rowan University. And it was
Wow.
like when I was growing up, it was a cool, like, artsy town, but it wasn't anything that I would say had like a queer epicenter. But now it's like just a really young, um, trendy town. And I think like it's interesting how a lot of these older towns, Maplewood, South Orange, you
Montclair.
know,
Yeah.
Montclair, definitely,
Yeah.
even Union and Cranford. I mean, we could just keep going on and on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting how you can do so much that you used to be able to only do in the city now in those towns. And I
That's
think what's interesting,
fantastic.
yeah.
So good. Yeah.
But now, like a Greenwich Village, like you talk about Sunday dinner, that sounds like my experience with my fiance's family from Jersey City. Like this, you know, they're all getting together and it's like Secaucus, like, the Italian deli owner's name. He
Yeah.
introduces
Yeah.
himself,
Yeah.
uh, where you used to get that in Greenwich Village. Now Greenwich Village is so touristy and trendy that it's like, can you even afford dinner at this
Yeah.
place?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just reading an article in New York Magazine how it's been taken over by it's just this influx of college age or post college, like influencers and that type, and it's become a very, and you can feel it when you walk around. I mean, you still see Julius. It's like freaking amazing that it offers what you could only get in Manhattan then. And often in Manhattan, it was the gritty side. It wasn't this wholesome or more wholesome like side for gay and lesbian families, LGBTQ families. It was more, like everything was kind of like hidden, like you said, like, porn
Mm.
theaters and that kind of thing. And now you can go to these festivals and that's pretty amazing. It's just exciting to hear that about New Jersey. I'm actually excited to come back and maybe speaking in a couple of weeks at something in Montclair. But
Okay.
yeah, New Jersey, like I used to be embarrassed to say I was from New Jersey when I was in Manhattan because it was like, oh, like you're a bridge and tunnel and this kind of thing. And now it's the opposite. Now it's fully embraced and it's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Jersey's having its moment, definitely.
Yeah.
And
I love
the
it.
film industry's coming here in
Yeah.
Monmouth
Yeah.
County. Atlantic
It's
City
Netflix,
actually,
right?
that's Netflix. Yeah. Atlantic
Yeah.
City has a movie theater now on the boardwalk. Or not movie theater, I'm sorry. A
Oh, wow.
production company. There you go.
Production company. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And like they have their gay bar just came to Atlantic City with a piano bar.
Oh,
I think like it's cool to just see how what we've always known about New Jersey and its diversity is now on a more mainstream level. Again, I hope it
that's
doesn't all go
progress.
into, yes, but I think it's important you bring up the influencer culture because that was something actually I was going to talk to you about in your novel, is to be in a time where there is, you know, technology. What we're doing right now, we couldn't do without technology. So
Oh,
I'm appreciative of that. But to think about not having your cell phone, to think about, having to call someone on a landline or,
hmm.
put in your quarter or 5 cents, or I forget, don't know how
Or
much it
not
was,
be able to. Like
or
there
not
was
be
so
able
much more
to.
autonomy because you couldn't reach people. You weren't reachable so many times. So there was more worry, of course, with parents and that sort of thing. But it was very different. And I really wanted to, as the environment, as we started out talking about, paint that picture to see what it was like when it's almost like precious and small and hidden and secretive. And just when things were starting to open up, and it was very important that this be pre-AIDS because I just wanted to show sort of the innocence and there was this glory happening outside of Andy's world where people didn't, there wasn't worry about anything when there should have been. But yeah,
And you do such a nice job. I think the summer
thank
between,
you.
what I love is it's a meditation on identity, desire. It like pairs so well with Call Me by Your Name. Um, Like, I'm just curious because I agree with you. I think that, not that, we've lost these stories, but I do think that there has been almost a pressure, and, I might get in trouble, but that's okay. I'm saying it is like, if you are, a white gay man, there is a, not that you haven't gone through a struggle or journey, but almost like you shouldn't talk about, like, your experience isn't what we should be highlighting right now. Like, we
Yeah.
should be highlighting more diverse stories. And I think that there's such validity to that, but that doesn't
Hmm.
mean we should lose these creative stories. And summer's almost here, and as a lover of literature, bookstores, libraries, the constant question I get is, Andrew, what book should I add to my summer reading list and read at the beach this summer? And I just always had a problem trying to tell people what to read. But guess what? No more. I have a magazine that has become my best friend. It is the GNLR, the Gay and Lesbian Review, a bi-monthly magazine of all things LGBTQ arts and culture. Their current issue is called The First Homosexuals, and it is guest edited by Dr. Jonathan D. Katz, who is a professor at the University of Penn. He was the founding president of New York's Leslie Lohman Museum of Gay and Lesbian Art, which, if you've never been there, is a free museum. So definitely go there. It's in Soho and it's amazing. Back to the GNLR. This new edition is so exciting to read. It looks at how the term homosexuality is an invented term. It was invented by medical scientists in the late Victorian period. So I can't wait to read all of these articles, but there's articles talking about homosexuality in Japan, Russia, Canada, Paris, India, Argentina. And Jonathan D. Katz talks about his exhibition called The First Homosexuals, now on display in Chicago's Wrightwood Museum from May 2nd to July 26th. But I can't get to Chicago this summer, so I'm so happy that I get to look through the magazine and see all of the articles that Jonathan has put together with contributing writers. I'm interviewing Jonathan soon, so look out for that episode, everyone. The GNLR has given me an exclusive promo code. Write it down, everyone. It's ITBR Choice, and you get a free issue with your subscription. So, glreview.org, go to the subscribe section, ITBR Choice, you get a free issue, and I can't wait for you all to enjoy the GNLR as much as I do. Please let me know if you're reading the GNLR, and until next time, when I have Jonathan D. Katz on. What does Sunset Boulevard, The Sound of Music, Vertigo, Snow White, The Wizard of Oz, and even Rebecca have in common? They've been covered on my friend Christian Garcia's podcast called That Old Gay Classic Cinema. Every time he is researching and deep diving a film with his guests, he asks the question, what's so queer about this film? You're going to love his podcast. You can listen to it on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and follow him on Instagram and TikTok at That Old Gay Classic Cinema. I hope you all enjoy it as much as I do.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
I agree.
Like you can have both.
Because there's so much diversity within us, and there's so much struggle within, because I think people think, oh, it's white privilege. And yeah, the struggle can be different, but there's also struggle, and it's just another story. I want to hear all the other stories. I want to read the other stories, and I have many of them. But it's just another, like, I don't know, petal on the flower or something. And
and it's also
interesting.
like, are you going to force yourself to try to write? You can never, in my opinion, write something authentic when it's forced. And in my opinion, something that we can look at, and no shade to the ladies in this cast, but I feel that, and just like that, compared to what Sex and the City was, is a clear distinction of losing its heart and losing its vibrancy because they were forcing narratives that just weren't there. And I get it. Like, yes, you want to be more representative, you want more voices, but there's a way to do it authentically. And then there's a way to try to, like, there's a whole episode where Charlotte is like being educated on transgender issues, but also being educated on pronouns, and like you can really feel that the screenplay is like, forcing you to learn about pronouns, and it's like,
it's a little cringy.
It's cringy, and it's also like she doesn't step in it. Instead, she's like the amazing ally, and thinking about it, no one is ever a perfect ally. Like, they're gonna step in it, they're gonna say wrong words, they're gonna have innuendos or dirty humor, or maybe possibly offend someone, but like that's a learning lesson. So I don't know, I think we've lost some of that.
I think that's a good analogy. I do, and I'm hoping that, just as aside from that, I've still watched every single episode, because it's like,
no, I do
even
too.
Though it's a shade, I still like it. And I love Sarah Jessica Parker, but and I hope this season is a little bit more authentic, as you're saying.
Well, and do you think that for all the representation, it kind of gets me to, I'm so happy that the young generation, I mean, I'm a millennial, but like even younger than me, the Gen Zers, they're like the ones raised on social media and cell phones, they have so much access now, but at the same time, there is almost like a peer pressure to conform, because they see like they're all judging each other based on what it means to be gay. Like there is kind of that loss of the different styles, like the different, way of being gay in the world. And I think that you remind us 1978 is a time where, there's so many different ways that Andy is trying to think about his identity. So, what do you think about I would say the young gay culture now compared to what you experienced in their shoes?
I think it's more of an explosion now, and there's so much positive reinforcement about it. Like, I have a niece, and when she was 12, I think she told her mom, she said, "I think I'm bi." And she didn't even really understand that much about sexuality then, but she wanted to be, because it felt inclusive. And it's not because she just wanted to be more expressive and more inclusive. She's just an amazing kid. But I think, like, it's the opposite of what it would have been like. You would never have said that, a long time ago. And if anything, you would hide it with your life, and for some people that ended up, tragically. So I think for the kids now, I think it is a little, I don't know, I was going to say a little blander, because I think because they're more accepted, they can be part of this group or that group, and it's not like gay is first. It's like down the list, and maybe that sounds absolutely healthier. It might be different for kids that push themselves creatively. I was walking through the Pride Festival in Chicago here last year, and I was amazed at how much color and how kids were like younger people, like 18, 19, 20, were adorning themselves with, like rainbow things and glitter and antennas, and that was like an explosion to me of youth and, LGBTQ youth and their allies that I forgot about. So I think there is still a lot of expression, but I feel like there's also, in some cases, a blandness to it, and maybe that's the benefit of being more accepted.
Yeah, it's almost
Not to say that there isn't struggle still at all, but it's different.
no, of
It's very
course.
different. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like the grittiness has been taken out.
The grittiness. Yeah. Yeah. That's what like this period, the setting, it was all about. And when I think even my personal experience, like being an art kid, a Parsons kid, like, you know, it was just like everyone was individual. There wasn't this commonality. It was just like a carnival of expression. Where now I feel like it's a little bit more uniform, and it's a little bit more, you go to the store and you buy the rainbows, as opposed
Mhm.
to, you sit home and make them, or you create some other persona for yourself, which a lot of kids did then. And now I think the it's a little bit less expressive.
Yeah, it's gotten commercialized in a way.
Commercialized. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you for
Like even even the Strand bookstore, like I remember going there when I was in undergrad, and this is like now 12 years ago. And then now it's like all tote bags and tumblers, and like I get it, they have to make a living, I understand, but at the
Yeah.
same time it's like, well, where's the chair to sit down? Like where's where's the public space? Like I think we've lost a
Yeah.
lot of, I going to the LGBT center, I was like, wait, you're actually open till 10 p.m. and anyone can sit here in the lobby? Like, it's just odd because free places like public libraries or,
Hmm.
you know, outdoor public parks, like New York City is a place where you can go still and actually be in public places and not have to pay money. But it is kind of, there is a lot of change though that has also happened where, you know, my fiance's brother like goes to a lot of these circuit parties, and it's like, well, how much is the party? Like it's not like anyone is
Right.
going to these parties. So I think at the same time
Yeah.
there's like a social class thing going on
Oh,
with the young
absolutely.
gay community too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There, and there has been for a while, um, but it's more so now for sure. Yeah, what's
Yeah.
also nice, and I spent some time in a couple of months a year in Copenhagen. There's so much bars that don't have any specification. They're just people hanging out. And I think here it's still a little bit more, it's a little bit more separated, and sometimes that's good and that's fun. But I think, I don't know, my experience in Europe is that it's more blended. It's more like people are just people, and you don't know what somebody is, and it doesn't matter because who knows? It's a
Yes,
little bit
yes.
more open. And, like my personal belief is a lot of people, if they allowed themselves to, would be more expressive sexually and experiment more than fear and religion has projected upon us, or
Yes.
religion has
So
projected, but fear of that. And I think, like throughout history, people have been more open to situations and people of either sex, or it kind of depends. It's a personal journey, but
Yeah.
I feel
So
like I got myself in hot water there, so I was starting to backpedal.
no, 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 I don't think
I
so.
don't want to speak for anyone else, but yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that, when you have like such an exciting blurb by Christopher Bram, who I also really like, I'm
He's an
such a
amazing
fan of
human
his
being.
work.
Oh,
Yes.
so great.
And, he's saying that Andy's story, it's sexy, funny, tender, messy, real. And I think in a way, this is such an American story, like all the registers of emotion, not trying to pit America versus Europe. I mean, well, now
Yeah.
there's a lot going on, but with all the things going on, we don't have to touch that.
Yeah, that'll be a 3 hour
But
show.
yes, but I do think though, anytime, you know, the grass is always greener kind of perspective, like I love Paris, and at the same time, though, there is such a uniqueness of being an American. Like, we're a little
Hmm.
brassier, there's a little more loudness.
Hmm.
I have a friend who is Danish and is definitely not as, um, how shall I put it? Doesn't
Vocal, or
necessarily
it's quiet.
vocal,
It's
vocal.
quieter. Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
quieter.
Yeah, when I'm
Um,
there and I laugh, because I can have a hearty laugh at times, and I see these heads turn, or I'm like, oh, Robert, quiet it down a little bit. Because it's like, it's a quieter, more polite culture. Yeah.
but at the
France too,
same
I think.
time, yes. And I think though what's so beautiful in like our discussion but also in your novel is how Andy gets to just, I mean, first I have to ask you too, what was going on with the Jackson Pollock, having Andy's name like contain uh the Pollock artist kind of imagery. Like, were you playing around with anything with the artist?
I was well, not, I was kind of playing around with his name, like when I was developing the character, and I was like, I don't know, it just popped in, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if his mother wanted him to be famous from the get-go, so she created this
Yeah.
hybrid name for this character. And I had written more about that initially, and then I pulled it back a little bit, but I didn't want to lose that because there was something, I don't know, there was something quirky about that that I thought gave him gave you a little bit more insight into his mother, actually, because Leah plays a strong part in the novel as well. And yeah, just sort of like her thinking, and maybe what pushed him to be a little bit more unique.
Yeah, well, and you also have the former president's name in his, having
Yeah,
Andrew
yeah,
Jackson. So, one of my
yeah,
final
yeah.
questions, no, and I think one of my final questions is just, what do you really, what did you learn about yourself
Hmm.
and your identity from writing your debut novel?
Aside from the fact that I could carry, that I could tell a story and create this arc without reading books about it or anything, that excited me, because it was, for me, it was like pushing myself to do something new, at this point in my life, and then having, sort of this success with that is, I'm so grateful to everyone that's helped me get to this point with it. But I think learning that about myself, that it's, oh yeah, it's not just painting or designing or creating architecture, using words to, in a project, to make something that hopefully will live on. That was incredibly exciting. And also, like, just having the discipline and like learning something new every day through the process. Like, I had no idea. I thought you write the book and you hand it off and other people do everything with it, which is, absurd, because there's so much work involved in promoting it, and especially with the first book, when no one knows who the hell you are, you've got to get out there and talk about it and share your story. So this has been a learning experience almost every day since I started writing. So what I've learned about myself is I still have this need and desire to produce art. That's the way I look at it, to create projects and push myself and create art. And that makes me happy. Um, and telling stories and informing people, but also providing some enjoyment. I mean, I think it's I think it's a good summer read, and the reactions that I've gotten from people, parents, fathers, has been really the most delightful aspect of it. Like providing insight to parents about their kids, if their kids end up being, LGBTQ, and the vulnerability and how to help them and not close them off. That's the most rewarding part of this, the emails that I've gotten from parents.
No, that is so.
That's a long answer.
Hearing from your actual readers, it's the way I feel hearing from those who listen to the podcast, that you actually have a community that you build. And I think that that's powerful. And I agree with you. I think, not only is this a good summer read because the title's The Summer Between, but
exactly.
I think it also is such a nice reflective novel, like one where you process what you're reading, put it down for a little, take it up again. Like you have a lot of depth, but I think it also is like a book that continues to make you want to go down the rabbit hole. Like listen to the music that's referenced, try to feel the aesthetic. I mean, there's a new disco documentary on PBS that I want to listen to or watch. And I love books that, like yours, really involve a lot of references or kind of lead you to learning new information. And like, not only is it about sexuality, which it is, but it's also just a journey in a unique American period of a city's cultural history. So you've done such an amazing job, Robert.
Oh, thank you so much.
You should be so proud of what you've done in a debut novel. It's
Thank you
it's an
so
incredible
much, Andrew.
debut novel. So how can everyone out there, get their hands on The Summer Between and make sure they follow you out there on social media?
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, well, my favorite thing is to recommend people go to their independent bookstore and they can just like very quickly, if they don't already carry it, order it for you to support local bookstores. But it's also available on Alstora and Amazon, of course, and barnesandnoble.com and bookstore.com. So all the main platforms, Target, I believe. But also bookstores. And then you can follow me on social media. My team, I have a publicist that produces so much fun material and reels. And that is rob.ert.italia. That's Instagram, or on Facebook. It's public with my name, Robert Raasch. And there's a website, but I don't update it as much as I should, which is also my name, robertraasch.com. But I would love to hear from readers. It's my favorite thing to get feedback and just have dialogues, short dialogues with readers. That's really fun. So yeah, let's this is a grassroots effort. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And I'm so glad that you enjoyed the book because it's about finding new readers. Yeah.
No, it's
thank you.
So enjoyable. I'm so excited for more to get their hands on it. Make sure you follow Robert on Instagram. Oh, and your second novel, can you give us any little teaser about it?
Oh yeah. It's kind of it's a little bit different. I think it's going to be a little bit more, I don't know if mainstream's the right word, but it's about a woman who's lived in the same co-op in Manhattan for 40 something years. She has a lot of LGBT people around her. Her son is gay, and she has a lot of secrets that I won't obviously reveal, but it's how keeping and holding these secrets has changed her own character and how she relates to other people. And then throughout the story, it's going to be a similar sort of weaving of various characters, very like scene driven and atmospheric and environmental in that sense, environmental in like understanding their environments. Again, it's Manhattan, but there's some scenes in Copenhagen, some in Provincetown, and it's going to be kind of another family saga. I mean, in so many ways, The Summer Between is about not just Andy, but about the whole family and his family of friends. This is going to be similar in that sense, but it's going to hold a little bit of a different kind of reveal throughout about this woman. And I always think of things thematically also, and it's like, oh, wouldn't that be great if a great actress? So I like imagine like a really good actress like a Meryl Streep or something holding on to this character and what she might do with it, and then helps my visuals in developing the character.
Oh, this is so exciting. Well, I can't wait. You're definitely invited back, Robert. And
Oh, good. I love talking to you because it's so much fun.
Yes, this was so fun. So, everyone out there, make sure you get your hands on Robert's book. Make sure you follow him. And until next time, this was so much fun. Thank you, Robert.
See you in New Jersey. Thank you so much.
See you in New Jersey.
We'll see you soon. Okay. Bye-bye.